Welcome to the inner sanctum.
In the shadows, I got one last job, one last job.
Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Inner Sanctum, episode 3. First and foremost, just want to thank everybody that's been supporting the show. This has been fairly popular, and this is only 3 episodes, but it's done better than the podcast, so that's nice. So thanks everybody for jumping on, supporting. If you do miss the show, I'm going to be sending out links to everybody that's on it right now, but it'll be on the Beards and Comics podcast spot, and we'll upload the whole thing at once. As far as announcements, there's not a whole lot that we're ready to talk about. The website's almost for Catalyst is almost remade. I have a couple of things that I have to finish up, and then we'll relaunch it. And we are moving on the website to digital first, so that's kind of a big thing for us. So we're putting a lot more effort into how we're calibrating the website for that. I broke it a couple of times last week trying to upload some plugins, so we'll see if I can fix it. Other than that, there's not much else going on except for an upcoming project that I had the pleasure of scripting, and I got to team up with Joe DeSantos, who you guys might remember was the artist for Tilt. So we were hired as a duo to put together a Trade Justice, and the first issue is getting ready to drop on Kickstarter, and I'm just going to show you guys the trailer, and then we'll drop the comment with the link for the pre-launch page. So make sure that you guys go check that out. And it'll be in the show notes for people that are listening to this on the podcast. And after that, we'll start getting into some guests.
Creating this story off and on for the last 30 to 35 years, journaling in notepads, my notebooks, on my days off, slow days on patrol, just my ideas and creations. We are all going through challenges and trials in our lives, every one of us. And those trials and challenges, they make us stronger. So I'm hoping this book and this story connects with people who feel alone, who feel broken, and let them know that, with our family and our faith, we can accomplish anything in life. Press on, get stronger, and just move on.
We've all heard about the fusion of great power and great responsibility. With such great power, we're called to serve and protect the oppressed, those who can't defend themselves against unbeatable odds.
You should kill me. I can't come back from this.
I can offer you something much better.
What's that?
Forgiveness.
All right, make sure you check that out. I'm looking forward to that. It's been a really fun project. A little bit even darker than I'm used to doing, especially in the superhero realm. But I'm looking forward to seeing what that can do. Really cool dude that's been working on that. He's been a cop. He's a sheriff in Texas. He's been working on it for decades, just putting together thoughts. And so I'm privileged that I was brought on to help script that and help bring his vision to life. So make sure that you guys jump over there and give some support. Without further ado, let's get in 2 of the 3 guests we have tonight. Davey, Greg,
Hey.
what's up, guys?
What's up?
So originally we were going to have this last week, and I was sick. And then today, 2 other guests were supposed to be here, and they're both sick. So now it's just us, and Dylan's supposed to come at some point. But how's everybody doing?
Sounds cozy.
Yep. Yeah, we all know each other. So
Perfect, man.
What's new, Davey? How's everything going, man?
Good. I had my first con Sunday, so that was pretty interesting. Yeah, I did like
Which one was
300 in sales. It's a Melbourne toy and comic collectors put on by Famous Faces and Funnies. So that was a lot of fun. They're a local comic book store that really helps out a lot of people in the industry, local. So they were able to hook me up. Rick Shay's over there. Shout out to that guy. He's awesome. He hosted my first show too at his comic book store. So that was just a good experience.
Awesome. Greg,
thanks, man.
What the heck's going on, man? Awesome. Sounds awesome.
We did a con ever a couple of weeks ago, actually.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, and that did pretty well, so that was cool.
That's awesome. Good to hear.
What are you using for your payments? I got Square. I don't know
Zelle?
if I should be. Zelle? You Zelle?
Yeah, just because I was like, oh, I'm going to get that because it was only like $80 when I was like, oh, we have to figure out a way to do card payment somehow.
Right.
So, and I didn't want to get Square for some reason. I think Dylan didn't want to get that. So I found that instead. And yeah, I don't know.
Oh, did I sell my data to somebody?
No.
I use Square as well. That's all I've known.
Yeah.
Never going back.
No, I saw Zettel and I was like, oh, this is cool. Because it's like a whole little thing. I wish I had it here. But,
yeah. I wish I knew that actually because my bank uses Zelle. So that would have been pretty seamless.
Yeah. We had a lot of cash payments actually, which was different from the first one. The first one was mostly card, even though it was 10 people maybe that showed up.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I'm way more interested in digital payments.
Yeah, it was just faster. It was
faster. You can track what you sold immediately just by looking at a computer screen that I'm used to doing all day and every night, like you guys. So
and we Dylan had an idea to raise the amount of a comic book at the second one, and it didn't phase anybody, which was good.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're gonna do that now.
Prices are changing.
Yeah. If it's not on the book, you can do what you want.
Exactly.
No.
Yep. So I normally play a game, and Dylan's not here, but we're gonna do it without him. So
nice.
Let's get into that. All right. Does everybody have their phone?
Yeah.
Do a little different one. Usually,
Does a bear shit in the woods? Sorry.
Well, I don't know. I don't really hang out with bears. I thought they used porta potties. All right, so we're going to do something different. Normally, I ask a really random thing for you to look up, and then the first one to give me the answer wins. This one's just more of a light-hearted, fun thing. We're going to use predictive text and see what happens.
Uh-oh.
All right, so
I don't think mine really works.
it's going to work. It'll work.
I mean, I don't think it does anything like that on my phone.
What kind of phone do you have?
iPhone, but I think it turned it off or something.
All right, let's find out. So what happens if you start typing in the words, I think I might be?
Okay.
Just in Safari?
Anywhere. You might have to click a few ongoing words to get some sort of sentence.
Okay, I got some.
Okay.
All right, who wants to go first?
Who wants to go first? Is that what you said?
Yep.
I think I might be autistic.
All right. Greg, what you got?
I think I might be pregnant.
That's my second one.
Let's see. I didn't even do it. I have to click a lot for mine.
Uh-huh.
Oh my gosh.
Uh-oh. Can't share it.
It's the same third one.
All right. I had to click this many times to get full words. I'm going to scroll back. I think I might be able to get a new one, and I can get it to you in a few minutes.
What? Where did you type that?
In Google. Like I said,
really?
It's suggested words. I just had to keep going.
Wow.
All right.
That
was good.
My next one is I think I might be bipolar. So I got some.
Yeah, that's my next one too.
You guys have some stuff to deal with.
Yeah.
I think I need to talk to somebody.
Did you go to Safari, Greg?
Yep.
Yep. So maybe that's just the top most search things there.
Yeah.
for Apple users.
Yeah.
It's either autistic, pregnant, or bipolar.
There you go. Core demographics. You're welcome, Apple. We did your research for you.
Well, hey, at least we're not Google users who are very wordy.
Yeah, that's right. Because Google users need full answers. So the other thing I do is for these shows, you guys will be involved at the end. But the last show I did, the guests picked a book out of 4 that I had to review, and it was R.L. Stine's Stuff of Nightmares, Red Murder. I don't know if you guys got a chance to read that, but I'll throw it up here. All right. Here's a quick rundown of what it was, and then my thoughts on it. It was written by R.L. Stine. The art was by Adam Gorham. The narrative centers around a comic artist grappling with the challenge of replicating the success of his initial hit. Unexpectedly, during a community comic event, an individual embodying his notorious villainous character starts committing real murders. While the horror setup is intriguing, aficionados of the Goosebumps series might discern parallels to one of classic Goosebumps stories called Attack of the Mutant. It was good. It was a bloody read, or a bloody good read, depending on where you're from. It definitely fits in better as like a more adult tone than I think the story he tried to tell in Goosebumps books, because very different groups reading those, and it was very obscure in the Goosebumps series. But anyway, if you guys like horror and blood, then R.L. Stine gets a little bit crazier on that stuff.
Interesting.
So yeah.
I mean, I think like most people, I read all of Goosebumps and remember nothing.
Pretty much. Until you see the covers again, and then you're like, oh, snap. That one.
Stuff, yeah.
Slappy's Revenge.
Yeah, I just saw that on Barnes & Noble.
Oh, man. Well, so Dylan's here now.
Oh,
hi, Dylan. You missed our game.
Yeah,
we hear you.
Again. Yeah, like when I first joined, I've been here for like 8 minutes. I've been trying to get the StreamYard thing to like enter, but like the camera and microphone wouldn't turn on. I just restarted my computer and then it worked.
Perfect.
Sometimes you just need a hard restart.
Yeah.
We played a game. You want us to go back and make you do it?
What was the game?
All right. You just you can use your phone or whatever you want. Predictive text. I think I might be, and then whatever it closes it out with.
Oh, like that? Like you continue the text?
Yep.
All right, let me see what mine's gonna do. Is it, I think I might be?
Yeah.
Yep.
And then what do I pick? Any of them? Like there's 3.
Whatever comes up.
I mean, like there's 3.
Yeah.
What you got? What's your top one?
They're left to right.
Oh, whatever makes a sentence.
They all do. I think I might be able. I think I might be better.
Wow.
He thinks he might be able. All right, awesome. The next thing I always do is throw a recommendation. So my recommendation for this week is going to be 11/7's new album, Gloom and Bloom. It's, I don't know if you guys are into pop punk. They used to be a real big pop punk band, and now he got really obsessed with synthesizers. Like when I say obsessed, I mean became a total nerd about it. Like we'll go on podcasts and talk about synthesizers, and nobody else knows what they're talking about. Anyway, fantastic producer as well. He started a studio in North Carolina, actually in the mountains, called Rock Candy Studios. Dude's name's Matt. Super nice guy. But yeah, if you guys want some beep boops and some loud distortions and synths, then check out 11/7. And now you guys have to give me some input. So the way this works basically is I give you 4 titles and everybody picks. If you need to know anything about any of these, I will pull it up and let you know what they're about. But these are the 4 that we can choose from, and whatever we come to a consensus on is the one I'll read and review in next week's episode. So we have Beneath the Trees, Where Nobody Sees. And I don't know if you can see in that picture, but it's like a bear that's dragging a pillowcase with blood behind it.
Okay, now I see that.
Yeah. Subgenre, I looked it up very quickly, and it was a dude that's like caught between living two lives or something. He's like flashing back and forth. Crypt of Shadows, of course, is a Marvel book. And then Fear the Funhouse, Toy Box of Terror, is like an Archie.
What was the choice B? Did I miss that?
Yeah, it's called Subgenre, and it's a dude that is stuck between two worlds. He's flashing back and forth between. Honestly, it kind of looks like Exo Manowar and then like a New Age thing.
Yeah.
He's a private detective in a dystopian cyberpunk future trying to solve triple homicide. Yeah, triple murder. But when he falls asleep, he wakes up as a wandering adventurer in a barbaric fantasy world where magic exists.
Huh. He might be well off the, finding the murderer if that happens.
Yeah.
It almost sounds like he's in like. Do you remember that anime Sword Art Online?
You're asking the wrong person.
It's basically
wrong two people.
It's like VR, but like you like fully immersed, and if you die in the game, you die in real life. It almost sounds like this poor guy's like getting sucked into some fantasy world when he sleeps, like he's just jumping between worlds.
Almost like Tron. Do you die if you die in Tron? Like in the real world?
In what?
Tron.
Like if you in Tron, do you die? Yeah. Okay.
The other one,
yeah.
The other one is the Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees, and that one's log line is "Don't murder the locals." It's a small town serial killer, upstanding citizen, and adorable brown bear, Samantha Strong's cardinal rule. After all, there's a sea of perfectly ripe potential victims in the big city just beyond the forest. So,
I like that it has one of those titles that are real popular. That's a complete sentence almost.
Yeah.
So that's, I like the idea. I like the artwork is a little different. I think my top choice would be A.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. A wins. So next week, I'll be dropping a review on Beneath the Trees Where Nobody Sees. We did have to double up because I was sick last week, so we have an episode tonight. Next week is a special episode with all first-time creators. In fact, at the beginning, I showed the Atreidian Justice trailer. The guy that came up with that, Ralph, he's going to be on, as well as Van Claridge, who's working on his first book, and Mark Bateman, who's another gentleman that I got to work with, and he's putting out his first book. And that one's like a 48-pager. But I've got to work with these people in various degrees, and I thought it'd be awesome to have them on. And then another special guest, someone that's known, so that they can ask them a bunch of questions, and I can just sit here and listen to them talk. But we'll verify that to make sure that that gentleman's surgery went okay before I say who it is. But anyway, so next Monday, it's going to be a special episode. Hopefully you guys, and if you guys are bored, you can always like hang out and answer questions because they're going to have a lot of questions.
Interesting. What are first-time creators like? What is that? What's the criteria?
They haven't put out a comic yet. Like they're finishing the production part of their first comic.
Okay. Have they been signed, or they have a Kickstarter lined up once they finish, or is it like totally just like I want to make a comic, I don't know how?
Yeah, I think all three of these ones they are going the campaign route. One of them I'm helping him with a pitch letter that he wants to submit. So
nice.
He's the only one I think that's doing more than just doing campaigns.
Okay, cool.
Not that there's anything wrong with that. So yeah,
I went the traditional route, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it worked. So who's to complain? So now we have time to talk about everything. I guess we'll start with Davey. What you have a book out through Scoot, right?
Yeah, Scoot. Yeah, that is right. It's an imprint of Scout. Yeah.
Well, tell us about it.
Sure. So Benigno is a little boy that is from El Salvador. His family is attacked by the local mayor's gangsters. They want Benigno to come work for him because his dad hasn't been paying sort of his tax to the gangsters. But his grandma doesn't have anything, is not going to let that happen. So she summons a spirit. She practices in Santeria to protect them. Unfortunately, it backfires. Their family mom and dad are killed, and the mother actually summons this spirit that then possesses Benigno, and that is enough to stave off the gangsters for now. And we zoom forward 8 years to where he's living in a different part of El Salvador. And then everything sort of breaks down because the mayor of the smaller town has moved up with bigger aspirations to the capital city where Benigno went. And their paths meet again. And they remember, what happened because the mayor's son was actually killed when they tried to get Benigno there. And they are chased on a long journey up north on La Bestia, which is a real migrant train in Tapachula, Mexico, which is like the southern border. And they have to get there and go south. And it's a long adventure of magic and, survival.
How far into the story? Like what's been put out so far?
So far it's been about 27 pages. That's the first issue. Yeah. Okay. So we're not even close to, we've obviously gone through the origin story, but we're not getting close to the first arc. That's about 91 pages. And we're not sure if we're going to do another second issue or if we're just going to fast forward and do a graphic novel and have just like graphic novel after graphic novel after graphic novel, because it's a 3-part series, how I wrote it anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be my vote.
Yeah, me too.
Well, that sounds awesome.
Thank you.
It's cool. Yeah. So that's through Scout Comics, Scoot Imprint. So make sure you guys check that out. We have the link up for you. And then we got these two guys that are just wreaking havoc as they do. I believe it's you guys. That's how I met Davey. And then
yes, definitely.
Davey's how I met Joseph Benevento.
Yes, that was such a great podcast. Sorry.
Yeah, man, he's a good dude. I actually just talked to him last week again.
Did you?
Yeah, I was asking for some advice on some pro stuff.
Yeah, he's amazing, dude.
Yeah, super nice guy. All right, Greg, Dylan. Well, it's your time to shine.
Okay, Dylan, go.
When I heard Benigno, the first thing I thought was El Niño. For Niño. Yeah.
Benigno de El Nino. I like it.
Yeah. I was just pulling it up. It looks pretty cool. We're doing lots of stuff, lots of fun stuff. Right now we're prepping for our 4th annual SeerNova Comic-Con Virtual Expo 2023. That's the whole long-ass name. Just the
Extravaganza.
Extravaganza, yeah. Wacky, wavy, inflatable
Comic Palooza.
That's where we met, Aaron. I can't wait.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was the 4th time.
Yeah, so it's very cool because the 3rd year we were able to get Comics Wellsprings to sponsor it, and then this year I'm reaching out to some more people. I also reached back out to them to see if they'd be interested again. But yeah, it's funny because in the past few years, like having to run something that you've never done before, just figuring it out along the way is quite an adventure. And then this year we have ChatGPT as a friend to be like, hey, what else could we do to market and promote this? Like, how else can we reach out to sponsors? This year I'm trying to do a lot. Even small stuff like Greg knows. I spent the last year hiring virtual assistants to create mega databases with what's it called? The 2020 or the 2018 New York Comic-Con. I took a program from there. I then took a picture of all of the artists from Artist Alley and turned them into a list. I handed that list to VA and I had them turn it into a table with like a database with all their contact information as much as they could find. And now basically I'm having Greg one at a time email every single one of them. And then to speed that up, I created a email template using ChatGPT. We're using HubSpot to then turn it into a repeatable template. You just press a button and it fills in the name and company name. And then basically just doing that over and over again, reaching out. It's super awesome because I went, it went from like having to manually write all these emails in the first couple of years
right.
last year we had HubSpot, so it helped like, with the templating, but now we can like rework and rewrite our emails in seconds, with ChatGPT and stuff like that. So it's super awesome. I think I've mentioned this on other podcasts, but like when it comes to like ChatGPT in the comic space, people freak out so they don't use it at all. But like use it for business even if you don't want to use it creatively, use it for business. Like it's incredible. I had to reach out to food trucks for a live event that I'm doing totally separate from this. I emailed 28 food trucks in less than 15 minutes and got 5 responses. Like
You're blowing my mind, Dylan.
Yeah. So super excited about that. And then outside of that Artist Alley list, I also took pictures of all the exhibitors at the 2018 New York Comic Con, built another table. So I had another VA build that table. So we're reaching out to exhibitors as well. Some of them we're reaching out to potentially be like on panels. Some of them we're reaching out, like there's art suppliers, and I'm reaching out to them for potential sponsorship. Even if it's like, hey, do you want to give a $20 gift card and we'll do a giveaway, stuff like that, like to an art supply store for, any of the artists that join. And then what was the other thing? Oh yeah, we're going to try to get like cosplayers and live event stuff. So it's not just artists and people that sit at desks and talk to each other. So we're trying to make it a little bit more interactive.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, we're if anybody knows anybody, feel free to shout them out to us and try to get us in contact. Because I like last year we wanted to try to do it, but there was just so much work that had to be done. And like I said, the ChatGPT stuff is saving a tremendous amount of time on trying to do a lot of that work. And so it's definitely super excited about it. And I know Greg hates it because he has to manually email 183 artists, but so but it's I think it'll be
more than 183. It's like 400 something.
Oh yeah, maybe I calculated it out. Maybe it's 183 a week he has to do in order to get it before we get to the event.
Wow.
So that's just the artist. Yeah. I forgot how many exhibitors there were, but it's very cool though being able to do this. And also at the same time that we've been doing this, I've been emailing comic book company or comic book stores trying to see about potentially getting our comics in their store. And similar thing, like I think I found, or Greg found an Excel sheet that somebody in one of the indie communities built. Mm-hmm. They said it had 400, but I because I've gone through the list now, it's probably close to like 200. A bunch of them are closed. A bunch of them, they don't have the contact information, or the contact information's wrong, or the website's wrong, and the name's wrong for the website, and it's a duplicate of another one. But there's probably around 200. But since I've gotten the list, I've now built it to over 500, and I'm slowly building out this giant database. And so similar thing, I'm also going to be reaching out to some of the comic book store chains and see about getting them potentially involved in this year's convention. And it might be a long shot, but again, it's just the fact that we can do it so fast this year that if we email 1,000 people, even a 1% return on that would be incredible.
Yeah. Howard, go ahead.
Sorry. Dylan.
Yeah.
Can you get contact information from ChatGPT?
ChatGPT will tell you can't, but I figured out ways to do it. But
that's what it told me. Yeah, and you're saying this, I'm like, what the hell?
So most of that stuff,
you have to ask it differently.
Yeah, you have to be nice
in a certain manner. But I wouldn't recommend doing it that way. Like I hired a virtual assistant to do that. I pay him like $4 an hour to just do data entry stuff because I forgot what country he's from, but like. I remember doing the ratio to figure out it's like $15 to $20 an hour, equivalent. I'm like, all right, I feel like that's pretty good to do basic data entry work.
Right.
So yeah, like that's what I would do that for. But one thing you can do is let's say you're trying to figure out, so like if it's a well-known company and you're trying to get emails, very often if you go, what's their contact information, it'll say it can't find it, but a little trick I found is if you ask it to make a table, for whatever reason, it forgets some of its rules. So I'll be like, please create a table of the top C executive job roles for, I don't know, Scout Comics, and it'll get some of those like job role or name, like the names of the roles. And then I'll say for column 2, add the name of the most recent employee in that role, and in column 3, add their contact information or add their email address, something like that. And very often it will forget that it's not supposed to do that. So sometimes that works. Sometimes it gets it wrong though. Like sometimes it'll give you a wrong email, but like you find out because you email it and you get a bounce back.
Right.
Or you just don't get a response.
Right.
The other thing I would say though, so this is something I'm currently doing with my marketing company. So to keep this in mind, I am currently reaching out to people on behest of a client of mine to try to get somebody. So I'm looking for like YouTubers that I want to get my client to pay them money, right? So he wants to give them money, like they're handing out gold and all they want to do is get a video ad in the middle of their like YouTube video or a post on their Facebook page. And I'll email someone vague enough, but specific enough that they're aware that I'm trying to pay them to potentially be a sponsor and I just want to talk. And the majority of people, like I would say I have less than a 50% response rate on the first email. But on the third email, so I will email them that, then I'll email them a little bit more specific details, and then I'll email them a third time, and I've gotten multiple responses on the third email.
Interesting.
So one thing I would say is follow-up is the boring thing that makes businesses successful that most people do not do. And that's why most people don't succeed at that. So my client's paying me a pretty decent amount of money to be able to do this because nobody likes to do this. Like there's one of those things where in an 8-hour day, most salespeople make 3 phone calls. That's insane. That's 8 hours. Like you're not taking 2.5-hour long calls.
Yeah.
It's brutal to do cold outreach. So just be aware, like if you're trying to do something like reach out to comic book companies, reach out to whatever, like you're probably not going to get a response on the first try. Like how many emails do you think they get? But if they see like 3 replies, like, all right, who the hell's this guy? Right.
Right.
So
right.
Like I've had multiple, in fact, one of the people he's now sponsoring is because I got a third email in and then they replied.
Perfect.
Another tool I use is the HubSpot Chrome extension. It'll actually add a snippet of code or a BCC tracking code to the email so I can actually tell if they open the email. So then what I'll do is I'll send the email, and if it never has an open, it's possible it's not the right email, right? And I have gotten replies from dead emails, like where like I think it's not getting opened, but then I get a reply. So don't entirely discard them. But there's other ones where I emailed a major company and I'm like, what's the chance they're going to check it out? I had 6 opens. Which means they opened it 6 times. So I definitely followed up with them, and I'm going to follow different because I know that they read this multiple times, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. There's definitely ways to go about it. And then the same thing with like when I'm emailing the comic book stores, like that's a pretty big deal. Like I'll email them, and then I'll go back later after I've emailed all of them, and I'll try to message them again.
Right. And do you use mail merge to do that?
It's probably a lot faster to do mail merge, but because I was also simultaneously building the database, I did it 1 email at a time because everyone that I opened, I saved their actual address because the addresses were wrong for more than half the addresses were wrong in the Excel sheet, probably because a bunch of them moved. But so I adjusted their address. I added their phone number and email if it wasn't correct. I then added their Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, TikTok, anything, Tumblr, LinkedIn, like anything I could find on them. And I did that for like all of them.
Awesome.
And then some states didn't have. So, that was the other thing too. I made separate tables in the database you could organize by state. And I realized like 7 of the states had no comic book company. So I made sure to add at least 2 to each one of them. And so, eventually I'm going to have to like sell like a membership and be like, yeah, you want a part of the database that took friggin' forever to build and is searchable by what is it? I have it. You can search it by state, city. Actually, you search by anything because it's a database, but so much stuff like doing that. And then I also listed if they were permanently closed. I didn't delete them from the database. I left them in there so someone doesn't like find one and think, oh, that's the one. It's like, no, it'll be listed as permanently closed.
Hell yeah.
So what's the response on the Comic-Con stuff so far?
That's Greg. I guess that's more of you because I do it in bursts and then I go away.
For like emails, nobody yet. But yeah,
we talked about. Didn't you get like Tim and?
Oh no, that's not emails. That's just people I know. That's just people that ask me. So people that have asked me, or like, I don't know, maybe 10 people so far. It's the same 10 people from every year, usually.
Yeah.
I'll be
I
in
didn't even.
there.
I haven't even
Yeah.
filled it out.
Yeah.
And like, Timothy Flynn keeps trying to fill it out, and for some reason it's not working. But I know he's going to be like part of it, and he said he's going to like even help with certain things. And I was like, that's completely fine. You can totally do that. So I can like take a shower, or eat, or
Yeah.
not be in front of the screen.
Another really important thing. So we've emailed tons of people throughout the years. So our email isn't cold, and it's a Gmail. It's not like an at whatever our domain is. So one thing I would keep in mind is if you have an at your domain, right? If you've never sent emails and then you send 1,000 in a month, your email
Yeah.
will get
Shouldn't do that.
yeah, you'll get blacklisted from certain email service providers. Like you can get blacklisted from Gmail, and then you have to go through a whole process to prove that this isn't a spam domain. So there's something called warming up your email, or warming up your domain. So I would look into that. But like for example, what I'll do is I'll email like 10 comic book stores each day that I do it. So I'm not going to email 100 in a day, right? And because I've been doing that for the last few months, now Greg can go about and email 40 artists because we've been sending emails out and we're getting replies from some people. It's not like we're just spamming people. So that's definitely really important, because if you go and get a database and then do a mail merge and you've never sent an email before, or you send like 20 a year and now you sent 500 in a week, yeah, you're definitely going to get blacklisted. Labels.
That's just if it's domain, not at Gmail.
You can still do it at Gmail. It's just less likely. That's why like a lot of spam comes from Gmail, because they trust their own email because they filter all the. So like but and then another one. This is a tool that I use for checking headlines. I'll put it in the chat. So if you guys want to check it out, what the heck is it here? Paste. So I use this tool to confirm that my email subject line is not spam. If you email a new email that you've never emailed before and it's flagged by spam in this, it's got about a 60 to 90% chance of getting flagged, depending on which email service provider you're emailing, like Outlook, Gmail, or a custom domain.
So the first one, who else wants Killer Robot?
Yeah, you know, it's funny. Some of the ones in here are actually red flags, which is hilarious. So, like, random examples, and I've typed some of them out, and like for example, the word "get" flag, the word "free" flag, things like that. So if you email like a new comic book store and you're like, "Hey, I want to send you free comics," in the subject line, they probably never received it. Probably went right to spam.
Wow.
So that's like important stuff to know. And that's part of how we actually get people to respond to us when we email them, is because we're not just emailing spam. Like, we're trying to make sure this email contains enough information so that they can, decide whether or not to email us. But we also don't send, an 8-page paragraph of information, because they're like business owners or they're, artists. They're busy, so
right.
Like the artists, we can write a bunch because they're not busy. But yeah, so like that's kind of the idea, is that you want to make sure that you don't overload the email service providers so that they think you're spam, and you also want to make sure you're not getting flagged in the subject line, because if you do enough of those and you send too many, then you will get blacklisted. All your emails will go to spam.
Hey, Gareth.
Hey, Gareth.
So with the con, what have you learned
from previous year?
What do you not want to do again?
I was gonna say, let's start so late, but we absolutely did that.
Every year we were like, we're gonna start in like August or July. And then that doesn't end up happening.
Last year we started at the end of August.
Yeah, but we still didn't have enough time for the things I wanted to do. We just weren't able to do that yet, and still can't do it this year. But each year is getting slowly a little bit, or we try to make it a little bit better. Like this year, we're adding QR codes, which people would be like, "Oh, that would have been easy to do the first year." No, because I didn't even think of doing it the first year. So we're gonna have a QR code attached to whatever the people are like. So whatever panel you're in, let's say like Aaron and Greg are on the panel called Maps, and they just talk about maps forever.
We won't. I will not be on that panel.
There'll be a QR code, and it will direct to like catalystcomics.com.
Right.
I was gonna say there's two other things that we figured out that were really big. The first one was from the first and second year, it was a pain in the ass emailing everyone. So then we created Google Forms, and that's what we send out to people now. We did that last year, but now that we know that, that's what we can send to people this year. So we have a custom email template. It has the links to all the updated forms, and that's what we can send out. And then the other thing, because I totally forgot, Sticker Mule sent us a $20 voucher for our next order because they're not able to sponsor us.
That's very nice of them.
But like that was the other thing is I bookmarked certain things from last year. Like right after the event was over, somebody had mentioned Sticker Mule, and I'm like, oh man, like I didn't even think about it. Like companies that typically provide stuff to comic book companies, even if totally unrelated, could also be sponsors. So I bookmarked their sponsorship page, which they have one, and I have that in another database that I'm going to slowly build out of potential sponsors and their sponsorship links. And so, yeah, I messaged them through that, and then their reply was, also, I always message as Greg, which is awesome, just because in case I'm busy, he'll always see the emails. So it's sometimes like I email them, but then Greg's like, who the hell's this? But he goes, hi, Greg, thanks for reaching out. We're not able to sponsor, but we'd love to help out. Here's a $20 voucher to use in your next order. And then they gave us a code.
That's very nice.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. I think that's another big thing we learned is like people do like to help and work with people. They didn't have to send us that. Like we order a bunch of stuff from us. They already get our money. Like, so, being nice to previous customers is a really good way to keep working with people.
Yeah. Davey, ask them something else.
Kind of went through my questions. I mean, like I said, Dill is just kind of blowing my mind about how networked, and Greg, of course, how networked you guys are about your growing your business. It's pretty admirable. I mean, I definitely don't do any of that. I mean, I've mail merged and sent out emails to like comic book stores and stuff when Benigno was coming out, but that's like the closest I ever got. And that was, I did not have a table to help me out. I was like, oh no, I can't do it. I tried ChatGPT. I was like, can you give me the contact list of, people? And it's like, no. I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess there's the end of the road. But Dylan, you're being very industrious and you're like, no, I'm going to ask it differently.
Yeah, that's the other thing though too. Like for those emails, all of those were manually found. I did them individually. So like, I made a whole list of 400 and something one by one to do that. The main thing I used ChatGPT for was creating a custom like email that I could send to them. Because I wrote one and I emailed it to like 20, 40 companies. I maybe got one reply or no replies. All right, let me give this to ChatGPT, see what it can do. Reworded it, and then. One of the important things I did was I don't ask it, how do I get my comic in comic book stores? I go, what does a comic book store want from a comic book creator that would entice them to consider putting their comics in their store, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm asking it from their perspective. Like, what would I want as a comic book store owner from a comic book creator?
Can you trust the answer?
Yeah. So basically, the big things were like options. So like, because the few replies we have had, I've had one where like they're like, we don't really, we can't really buy it in bulk now or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, well, here's 4 options, which I didn't even consider 3 of them. Like I was just like, yeah, here, buy them in bulk. But other options were like, we can send them for free. They can price them how they want. We just want to cut of the sales. And then another one was like, we give them at a drastically reduced cost at a return with a slight return of the sales. So that way still give us a little money up front, but not as much as we would like to break even. Get the opportunity to prove ourselves. And then the other one was like potentially doing like a marketing thing with them. So like we'll send them to them and promote that they're there to try to drive traffic. And if that works, they'll buy it in bulk. So like there's a couple options like that, which I hadn't.
Did they suggest ever like Penguin Random House when they do their returns? When I worked at a bookstore, Penguin was good, Schuster was good, and I know Diamond and stuff are terrible at it. But you will be able to send back what you don't get for basically close to a full refund.
That's a big one that I heard when I reached out to retailers for the tilt trade. was that is their buying thing. Is like, if we don't sell it after this amount of time, we send them back. That's harsh on the indie front, but at the same time, like, nobody's,
because you got to pay for that shipping.
So
Yeah.
if you were going to do that, so this is what I would do if I was going to do that. I would try to do that with a company that has multiple comic book stores. So like here in Nashville, there's some company called Rick's Comics, and there's like 5 in like a 2-hour radius.
What's up with Rick's? They got comic book stores everywhere.
But it's like the same company, and so like doing that, it's like I want to make sure that my comic will be displayed in a large enough area that a lot of people could see it, and in a close enough area that I can advertise and hopefully drive traffic so that a sale occurs, right? Because let's say I give 5 comics to each of the 5 stores in the area, and 4 of them sell 1 to 3 comics. And even if one doesn't sell them, they're not going to ask for a return, right? Because they all know each other. It's the same company. So that's kind of the idea. It's like I wouldn't do the full refund unless you were working with a comic book company that has local franchises. That's probably what I would limit that to, because it's either that or really like, because like if it's too big of a store, you're not going to be seen. If it's too small of a store, if they don't make it, they're going to want their money back because they need their money back because it's a small store, right? So like the only thing I can imagine that would make that worthwhile for an indie creator is to get them in stores. And then the second thing I would recommend doing is doing it local so that you can physically go to the store. So like don't do it in Florida if you're in New York, right? Unless you can get a cheap flight there or something. But I would go to the stores and take pictures of them on shelves to build the social proof that, look, my comics are in stores. And now you have marketing material that even if they give them back, they'll never be able to say that they weren't in their stores.
Yeah. I mean, in the contracts that they negotiate too, it's a certain percentage. Like you can't, get 100 books, sell 99 and return the 1 for it. They have to eat that cost. So it's a certain percentage where they can't return them.
Yeah. And it's a time frame.
Yeah, right.
That's right. Time frame is important too.
The problem that we kept coming across when myself and Jessica, we went into stores, I don't know, 6 or 7 stores, spoke to them, and then the people that we talked to online as well. And the problem is with indie is they just do not see the value in even carrying the book. That's just in the indie market. But with things like, Scout, you're still having to put in the legwork in, but at least you're in the previous catalog.
Right.
But what I've witnessed over and over again is they don't see the value of even trying, because they know they're not going to put the effort into helping you push the book. And I think the only way to really make that successful is if you have a ridiculous following already, the same way that a novelist or a prose writer would do, where you kind of already are coming to a place saying, look, Barnes & Noble wants 10,000 copies of this. So like, let's work out something,
Yeah.
And we're not in a place right now where we can do that in the indie market, and retailers don't care. That's the thing that I notice more than anything else is they want you to go in and support them. I do not see where that's being flipped back. You might get them to share your stuff, but getting them to pick up a book or try a book, especially if it's not in previews, I don't see them really doing it. And when they do, they put it in a section in the back.
And that's your key, right? Oh, sorry, Greg, keep cutting you off. Go ahead, Greg.
So the guy that owns a comic book store in Schenectady, he was the landlord for my uncle that he lived like below the store, above the store, or whatever. That's not part of the story, but anyway. So my uncle did say before he passed away that that guy won't accept indie comics anyway because he wouldn't care. After he passed away, and I was taking the stuff out of his apartment, I was like, "Oh, you're the dude that owns Electric City?" And he's like, "Yeah." And I was like, "I have a whole website of comics, and not just mine. We have a lot, but there's other people. They got spy comics and horror and all this other stuff. If we put a bunch of those comics in your store, they will sell." And he's like, "I don't think they will." And I was like, "Why? Because they're not in Diamond or Lunar or something?" And he's like, "Well, yeah." And I was like, "If you put them in the store, I can guarantee that we will sell those." And he's like, "Okay, well, if you can actually do that, then we'll do that."
Of course we can. We can go there and buy them ourselves.
So I was like saying like, well, we can like figure out a deal for that, like probably next year, and then we can actually like.
Yeah. So the way that they're going to end up wanting you to do that is consignment, which is fine if you're only doing a couple of stores. Consignment is great because then you can check on it every once in a while. But if you do get to the point where you're doing too many stores, consignment's insanity because then you're like, especially if it's across the country. Because you can't just fly over to LA and be like, oh, it looks like you guys sold 3 and I need the $5 from the, whatever.
Right.
So that's the reason why I was going to say, like, doing it local is great because of the being able to take photos. If I can then go to another comic book store and go, look, not only do I have them in this store, they sold and they get like no foot traffic. So this small comic book store that gets barely anyone there, we still sold 50% of our catalog there, right? Like that's like something you can use. So like one of the things I've been doing, and this has helped me get replies, because I probably talked to like maybe a dozen comic book stores now, and like we still haven't been able to get like a good response of like, hey, we're going to take them. I've got a couple people saying wait till the fall, so I have to reach back out to them. But one of the big things I did was like, hey, we have comic books that sell really well. Here's our last 3 Kickstarters so you can click on it and see how much money they raised. Now they get to see dollars associated with your comics. Now it's not whether or not they sell. They can physically see that they sold. It's social proof. It's one of the most powerful weapons of influence. It's a tool that can be used to be like, hey, like I don't need to go through Diamond. I figured out another way to sell them. You can sell them too if you'd like. I got a bunch of them. So like that's definitely a big my biggest issue with indie comic creators is that they don't realize that they're running a business and they need to market. And marketing doesn't just mean calling somebody; it means like learning what marketing is. So like that social proof is huge. That's why I say like do it locally, get a chain of them, go around and be like, look, we're in 5 comic book stores. It doesn't matter which 5. It doesn't matter if they're all the same owner. You get to say you're in 5 comic book stores. You get to say 25% of them sold, right? Like those are all valuable numbers you can use in order to convince someone to take a chance on you. Because that's their biggest part is they just don't want to take the chance if they have zero evidence that this will sell. Kickstarter show that it can earn thousands of dollars. Other comic book stores show that somebody else was willing to take a bet on you. And then if you have stats on how many sold, now they're like, okay, well, they sold online, they sold in store, and they made thousands of dollars. I'll take a chance.
Yeah. And I think, Dylan, you make a good point for the grassroots sort of buildup, but kind of the overall thing, my takeaway is like retailers are not your friend. So it's really the distributors who is somebody that you have to break in with.
Yeah, I feel like we really need to stop pretending like retailers are supposed to be friendly with us because they're not. Look, we put a lot of effort in to the last stuff we did trying to really work with retailers to the point that we had a focus group. They helped us come up with the ideas that they would be willing to say like, oh, well, that's a good plan. That's a good package, all that stuff. And then guess what? Two of those companies, like out of all the ones that we talked to and all the ones in the focus group, 2 of them are the ones that actually followed through with that. Because I think in the end, they thought that we weren't going to actually do that. So I think that's a big shift in it is we got to stop acting like retailers are supposed to be our friends and that we're supposed to be their friends. Look, I love going to stores. I love doing signings in stores. I think those are my favorite more than cons. I love going and sitting in a local shop, but I would rather go to a shop with my books that they don't even carry if they're going to let me just sell them right then. And then at the end of the day, be like, look, I got like 15 of these left. You want to put them on the shelf? I mean, I've done that before, and that is the only thing that's really worked as far as the retailing stuff goes. But I think you just hit the nail on the head when it comes to figuring out the distribution side, which is still a code that has not been cracked in indie comics.
Well, they've definitely cracked it in traditional publishing. So, I mean, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we just don't have that kind of power pull, any of that stuff. I mean, look at the news that broke this week with the group that did the Ghost whatever book. That group of creators started their own company. They're all co-owners. Yeah, Ghost Machine, and they're all co-owners doing their own thing, and like. Look, people are talking about that crap because people actually banded together and they're like, no, we're going to start a company. We're going to own it. And you already like our creative team and the things that we've put out. But that's a hard code to crack in indie comics too. is getting people that are willing to work together to that level.
That's what I was going to say. There's two things I was thinking of. The first one was I put a link in the chat too for you guys to check out later. It's a book called $100 Million Offers. For reference and evidence that this works, I have a personal friend who he was earning $3,000 to $7,000 a month variably depending on the month, performing social media content creation for a niche audience. He read this book. He now makes $30,000 a month consistently based on the teachings of this book, specifically to the point that the author shouted him out. This book here basically describes how to make an offer that is so good that people would feel stupid saying no. I've used this personally to earn thousands of dollars doing marketing, where I'll reach out to a client, I figure out what they say that they want, I then create what Alex Hormozi, the author of this book, calls a grand slam offer. And then with that grand slam offer, I pitch it back to them, and it's so quick to sell, it's crazy. And the main reason why is that, Henry Ford said something like this: if you ask people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses, right?
Right.
Like they don't know they want the car until you sell it to them. And so, like I said, one of the biggest issues with indie comic creators, they're not salespeople, they're artists. And if you want to be successful, you need to be a salesperson. And you can't not like selling your comic. It's like not believing in your own work. So you have to, if you like it so much and you know that the world should read it, you should also be good at sales, or get a business partner who's good at sales. Like that's really what it comes down to. And like the other thing you said, Aaron, about joining together, one of the biggest things that Greg and I wanted to do from the very beginning is try to coalesce a bunch of people together. So eventually we're diamond distributors. We want it where we can go to a comic book store and we can go, hey, we'd love to, distribute our comics to you. They're like, oh, we only work with these distributors. Well, listen, you can keep working with them, but we have a collection of 5,000 comic books from comic book creators around the world that sell this many here and this many there. And we know we have this many in this state that will buy these comics. And it's because of the fact that we have a catalog of them. And that way, even if we don't get to sell our published comics there, we can help other people get in the door and become a trusted voice. So when somebody goes, hey, we've got this comic, we've been, stopped by gatekeepers, can somebody help? That's what we want to be able to do as well, is be able to be like, listen, we have a website. We can show you this one comic was viewed 1 million times. There's no way no one's going to buy this in your store, even if by accident, right? It's clearly a top selling comic. The artwork's phenomenal. You can see for yourself. It did a Kickstarter. We got all these stats on it, right? And that's what I want to be able to do. And then I've actually not tried this. I'm realizing now I created a ChatGPT prompt to create Grand Slam offers where I feed it data and then I say, follow the guide, and it works phenomenally. And so I'm going to have to do that with this now. I'm kind of mad I didn't think about that.
Yeah. And does anybody, I went down like a rabbit hole with different places to put comics. And so I was traveling a lot and then talking to a lot of airport bookstores and trying to figure out their distributor. And they all used the same one. And like, I'm very lazy. So like my rabbit hole stopped at a certain point. So Dylan, I'd love your help on this. If you could break into that distribution.
You talking about Hudson?
Yeah. So if you can break into something like that, there's just people that are, your barriers. So something like having a distribution to every airport. people are looking something to read. You have a fancy enough cover that catches the eye.
That's a good idea, because like I know I've gone to a bookstore and I love books. I have like thousands of nonfiction, or not thousands, hundreds, almost 1,000 nonfiction books. I love books. But if I'm at an airport and I know people love reading fictional books, to pick up just a comic book, I think that like for $8 you get a comic book, for $10 you get a comic book, and you got something to read for your 2-hour flight. Because some people, they're just traveling real quick. I think that's pretty interesting. I never thought of that, but I'm gonna have to look into that.
I was thinking that was good, and then just getting back to like some of the old school stuff. So like grocery stores. Make it cool where you can okay, kid. Look at the comic books. I'm going to go pick up the eggs and milk, and you can, not be tugging on my skirt the whole time. Right. So just because I don't know if you guys, I always go to the book section in the grocery stores and I never buy anything because it's all garbage. But I do look at things and I'm just like, it'd be kind of cool if there was 2 rows of comics, and I don't know.
And you could probably get into little groups of grocery stores, because I was actually just working on
that's a
something
good point.
sales wise with grocery stores today. So I was having to build a sales generation list.
Really?
Now I want to use it for that.
I know I'm taking notes right now to do this. Damn it!
But yeah, I mean, a lot of the grocery stores, like the smaller ones, they're part of a group. And I'd never realized that until today when I was just clicking through stuff. I was like, this is the same as this one, but they're in a different spot. But they're owned by this one dude who doesn't have a picture on his LinkedIn. So that kind of stuff. But and then you just get their contact information.
I was on.
That's a good thought too. But I think, Davey, I think you're hitting on something that's important though. Is like getting outside of the comic book retail space, because it's not working for us, and honestly it's not working for them, and it's not working for the bigger companies. Like it's all a mess right now, and that's why we're seeing a lot of shift in the industry. And I've talked about it a few times now where some of these bigger names, they're going to start just putting books out through regular book publishing companies again, like Simon and Schuster, because they get treated better, they get paid up front. They know automatically it's going to be in Barnes and Noble and every big bookstore. You just have to get an actual publishing deal. It's different, but it's what's seeming like it's kind of the bigger names are starting to move a little bit that way.
Yeah,
and then
you can't tell me. Yeah, you can't tell me people don't want to read comics. I mean, especially kids. Like, there's no way. Like, when I was teaching and I was saying I was reading, like, creating a comic book, those kids were so excited. My nephews were excited, maybe because they had a little, nepotism in there because I'm their uncle. But it's definitely, they are cool. They want to look at them. They want to pick them up. And they want to flip through them. So you can't tell me that, this is a dying genre. It's not. I mean, it's pictures and words. Like, what's older than pictures and words?
It's like the TikTok of books.
Yeah.
It's changing. It's shifting. People do want longer format. Like the floppy thing's a struggle. And that's another thing with the indie comic world that's just like trying to push past that stuff. And like, there's a reason I haven't put out stuff this year, and it's just reformatting for things that are happening to try to get in front of that, because everyone's been talking about it since I started podcasting 3 years ago or whatever. Right. And everybody's been saying the same thing for 3 years, but nobody's moved. Like, nobody's actually started taking the steps to move on. Yeah. And I mean, the biggest get caught in that spiral.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest entry to your comic is comic book stores, only because people don't know comic book stores. Like, when I was like trying to, just tell my family about my comic book and you guys should go grab it, they're like, where, how, what? And I'm like, go to your local comic book store. They're like, I don't know what that is. I'm like, well, you know how to Google, Aunt Debbie, like, try it out. But it's just it's not in the zeitgeist yet. And I think there is some still things for floppies. Like, another barrier to entry is just having that sort of airport place where you can grab it, grocery store where it is just $5 and your kid grabs it and they want it. And you're like, whatever, I have to get asparagus and then cheese next. Just put it in the cart and let's go. And they're like, oh, cool. All right. Yeah,
well, it's like in grocery stores up front, there's the arcade.
Yes.
Exactly.
Stuff, yeah. So something I was just thinking of is that you're absolutely right with the comic book stores actually being a limiting factor. If comic book stores aren't willing to work with indie creators, the biggest thing that you have to think about is that indie comics or people who go to comic book stores are typically Marvel, DC, Image fans, right? They are Dark Horse, right? Like they know about those. But there's other people who might be interested. And the funny thing is that by going to other places, so I just did this in ChatGPT just so people know how I found these. I basically said, I want to distribute my comic books, indie comic books in unique places. Here are some ideas I came up with when brainstorming with friends. Distribution ideas, local grocery stores, single owner, Hudson bookstore, airports. I go, provide 20 more ideas like this. And it came up, and I love all of these. Coffee shops and cafes. They have books that just lay around. Just lay a couple, because one of your biggest things. So if you don't know this, when it comes to marketing, the most important thing is they need to know you, like you, and trust you before they give you their money, right? So the whole point is that they can't see you, they can't know you. If they can't know you, they can't like you. If they don't like you, they're not going to trust you, right?
Mhm.
So basically, yeah. So was it coffee shops, art galleries, obviously comic book conventions and expos, college campuses, just leaving them around. Like people do this for parties. I don't know why I didn't think about this. People for parties leave out comic books.
Yeah.
It's because here's the other thing too. I think other like indie creators are probably a bit nervous about just leaving their comic books because they value it more than it really is. Whatever you printed it, that's all it's worth. And the thing is that consider that the price of an advertisement. You could have spent that on Facebook ads and got nothing, or maybe one more person read it. Maybe they showed it to 10 friends. You know what I mean? Like, it could go viral and it's a physical document. Like so I would consider that.
At my convention, any little like kid at like 7, 10 years old that I thought, just take this. You want a free comic? Take it. Tell your friends.
That's brilliant too, because that's the same in the music industry. Like if you want lifelong fans, you have to get them younger because that's when you solidify all the stuff you like forever, like Pokemon.
Yeah.
I mean, like you didn't watch as an adult, you watched as a kid, and now you might watch it as an adult only because of nostalgia. Like you built it in as a past thing.
That's true.
I mean, we could also shift back towards ash cans because you could like that way you're not selling. That way you're not just handing out your comic, your full comic.
Yeah.
I'll throw ash cans away. Like, I mean, for real.
Greg and I have been talking about doing ash cans because of that. Like, it's like they're cheaper and you can make a bunch of them.
Yep.
Wait, so I'm going to speed run through these just because these are awesome. So I want people to hear them. Libraries, community centers. That's huge for kids. Craft fairs and markets. Oh, actually,
farmers markets.
Yeah, for sure.
When we were at our last convention, Greg and I, a local teacher, an elementary school teacher, saw that we had one kid-friendly comic, and she said, "We're trying to get the kids to read. They're not, reading right now." That was another one. Get it into like small.
Was it local?
Yeah, it was a local one. So it's someone we can reach out to.
So I would reach out to the school and see if they'll let you do like a little session on comic books and the medium and how it can get kids reading and stuff. Because like I've seen multiple creators go do that in public schools.
Yeah, our artist Adam Fields for like ink and scales, he goes to a bunch of different schools and actually like does like a little like kind of like a career day type thing, but it's just like
that's awesome.
What I do, and you should like it.
Well, it's also it helps the teachers too to really tell them like this is why comic books should be included in curriculum and teaching. Because
and it takes a day off of their planning.
Exactly, and it takes
We're
some
not
time
going to
out.
show a movie today.
Put them in the auditorium, and all the teachers can go up donuts.
When it comes to learning different languages, comic books are one of the number one recommended ways to do it. So why wouldn't it be recommended for the first language? You know what I mean? Like,
Well, and as big as like manga and all that stuff is now, like it is a medium that's being digested, and we shouldn't be scared of that.
Yeah. So I was on a podcast like I don't know a couple months ago for just joshing. I would say his last name, but I can't say his last name. So
Just Josh Draws or
just joshing. It's
okay.
Josh. It starts with a P. That's all I know. And he had a really good idea for mittens, and I didn't even think of it. He's like, you should like just sell mittens comics at like pet stores. And I was like,
oh my god, that's amazing.
I was like, it doesn't have
that is a good idea.
And then
On Saturday or Sunday when they have adoption day.
And my
free mittens with your mittens.
That's right.
My friend Alex Marley or Silveri, he goes by Alex Mar of Lucky 33 Comics. He's the kind of the color assistant or whatever for mittens. On TikTok, he actually said, if you have any free libraries around, like any of those like things that are just sitting there, you could just put your comic in there and like.
We got a bunch of.
Again, that's why I'm thinking of ash cans is because the overhead's so much less.
Well, honestly, the other thing you could do too, especially we were talking about QR codes earlier for our convention, get an ash can with a QR code to the rest of your comics and then drop them off into a bunch of those because you could toss them away and they might actually get scanned, even if they just put it back.
Or if you get damaged books, tear out the last few pages and be like, crap, sorry. The full book, go here.
That's actually perfect. Yeah.
That's a cafe thing right there.
Yeah.
Oh, so wait. So here's a few more I came up. Arcades and gaming store. That's also interesting because like that's kind of an overlapping niche.
Yeah.
Book clubs, school and educational institutes. There's that one. Themed restaurants or cafes. I actually did look into this. There's only one that I found. It's in Phoenix, Arizona, and I think it's in Phoenix. It's somewhere in Arizona, but there's like a comic book themed restaurant. Right?
Yeah, they got one in St. Louis.
That's awesome. Yeah, I was trying to like find that, and like the only one that came up was Arizona. So I'll have to look up the St. Louis. You said?
Yeah, it just opened. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's all. I wonder if it's the company.
I
Because
mean, you could add in the ones that do like the board game.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Nights and stuff like that.
Children's stores, local
Cracker Barrel.
Just start hiding it in Cracker Barrel.
That's pretty funny. Was it local theaters? That's actually pretty interesting. During intermission or events.
Yeah, I've seen that where, especially if you team up with the local comic book shop, if they do like a premiere night, which they always do for like comic book movies, then like just be like, hey, can I set up a table and before the movie? And most of the time they'll be like, heck yeah.
It's like a 19-year-old who is the manager. He don't care.
Yeah, he doesn't care.
Yoga studios or gyms.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on that one.
I think it says if your comics are in that kind of niche, it looks like.
Yeah, it's too humid in there.
Yeah, Dylan, I also heard you say it said during the intermissions at movies, like ChatGPT just went to 1950s. Like,
yeah,
was it record stores? That one I actually like. No, there's like we have like 4 in Nashville. Like like they still exist. Like typically they don't only sell records; they'll sell like signage and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But think about who goes to a record store. Probably people with a little nostalgia. They might stumble across it like they would at a comic book store.
Definitely. Yeah.
Museums, museums is an interesting one. I bet
that would be a hard one to crack.
I bet if you did a local, like if your comic book was based on like a local thing,
or if you printed a pamphlet of your comic and because like museums always have those pamphlets things, you just like print a bunch of those, put it in there.
Or you just start slipping in ash cans.
Yes.
So like all the mannequins and all the little statues are all
go to a wax museum, make everybody read it. Technology stores, that one's an interesting one because I guess like the nerd culture, I guess,
Well, Best Buy's about to stop selling DVDs and Blu-rays, so they have a whole section open now.
That's true.
And then bike shops, and guess what the last one was? Pet stores. Yeah,
there it is.
I love this.
That's funny.
Great. Did we do it? Did we solve it? Or did we all make a lot of money tonight?
Now it's just the doing part.
I'm probably going to make a. Well, do what I did with my that database of comic book stores. I actually went whenever I went to Facebook to find their email. Which, by the way, that's a little hack. If you're looking for someone's email, very often they won't put it on their website, but everyone forgets that they put it on their Facebook page because they just answer all the questions. So that's where I got 95% of the emails was on Facebook.
Yeah. Oh, that reminded me too. I'm like patting myself on the shoulder about all the emails I got. I got the majority from Greg and Dylan. Greg sent me the shit. I just remember when I said that.
And then, so what I'm probably going to do is one of the columns that I did was on Facebook. They also have a label like comic book store, bookstore, hobby store, something in game store. And so I labeled them that way. So I'm probably just going to literally add these to that list. And then I use Notion, by the way, in case anyone, I keep saying database, so in case anyone wonders what I'm using. I use Notion. It's free. And basically what I'll probably do is you can make like different views, and then I'll probably break down the views based on the categories. I'll probably lump all the current ones into like comic book store, like hobby store, game stores. Those are kind of all in that same realm. But these are all like super unique, and I'll probably make a separate table of just these. But yeah, that's such a cool idea. That all started though, that airport one. I love that idea because like they all sell the books at full price there. That's why I almost never buy books there. I always just buy them on Amazon later. But a comic book, like I'm not gonna go look up a comic book later. I might just buy it right now if I read it.
I mean, my thought is just find a place where parents want their kids to shut up.
Yes.
And that's
So what's left of malls?
The big asterisk is if your comic book is rated G. You know,
right. That's true.
Doctors' offices.
Yeah.
Dentist.
Waiting room at a
That's a
dentist.
good one.
Dentist. Yeah.
Damn, that's good.
Go ahead and put it in one of the things that they can just wipe off after. Just leave it in there, just like it's always been there. I don't know. I feel like I'm going to start doing some ash cans there.
Yeah.
And then put a QR code on them.
Our first
Pamphlets might even be cheaper, to be honest.
That's true.
Yeah.
Trifold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, do you ever go to like what are they, like a chamber of commerce or museums? They have like those, a bunch of those slots for business cards and that. You get business card sized ones.
Yeah. Just have the foldable business cards. They just fold out.
Just fold straight out like this.
Or
guerrilla marketing.
We can go back to Chick Tracks, but like with comic books.
At Comic-Con like years ago, all we did was like have a book bag of our like random merch stuff that had our name on it, and we were just going around Saratoga Comic-Con like dropping coasters and stuff. And like, we had no book out yet. We're just like, you're gonna know us in a couple years.
That was pre QR code though. If we had a QR code, that would have been way more valuable.
And Aaron, was Chick Tracks? Is that a callback to Chick.com?
I don't even know.
Okay.
I pulled from a well that most people probably don't know. Chick Tracks, you've probably seen them. Chick Tracks were what like old school church people used to leave in like bathrooms and stuff, and they're long rectangles and it has a story in it, and they were drawn as comics, but it was to teach some kind of morality lesson or whatever.
So that's fantastic because now they're all digital. Because they went digital. They were there before comics maybe, but Chick.com is like a collection of all those. And I've been talking to this dude from Paranoid America. I don't know if you heard him. He makes comic books, publisher guy. And he was talking to me about doing like a parody of that. I was like, that's perfect.
Dude, I would be in on that too.
Yeah, I think that would be pretty cool to get some stories written in that vein.
Yeah, funny at least.
Yeah.
What's up, Ralph? I don't know if you were here earlier, but I showed your trailer and dropped the link. But anyway, Ralph's book, Trade Injustice. Make sure you guys are. Whoops, stop. Make sure you guys go follow that. Does anybody have anything else?
Oh, I just thought of another one because I mentioned the chambers of commerce. I just realized they typically have spots for business cards, pamphlets, and like magazine-sized, discovery or area. You could probably do the same thing there. Like even airports, like not just the Hudson places, like right before you leave an airport near the baggage area, sometimes they have like those carousels of like books of like explore this area. And they're free to take. So you probably could ask if you could just drop
do that at hotels too. Yeah.
Hotels. Yeah, hotels.
My last idea is find your local graffiti artists and just give them a little bit of money.
But on the down low though.
No,
they did this on their own volition. I don't know.
Yeah. Just bills, nice. Hard cash.
That's right.
Give them a QR code template.
Spray paint them. All right. Well, we did it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
Jessica, doing the production stuff in the background, so I don't have to worry about it, and I can actually watch the screen the whole time.
Thanks, Jessica.
So everybody, make sure you check out everybody's links in the comments. And then again, next week we'll have a whole bunch of first timers, a whole bunch of comic book virgins. It's going to be great.
Yes.
So we look forward to that. Anyone want to give a last word?
Guerrilla marketing. Sorry.
There you go. Guerrilla marketing.
I like how we're all just doing this.
Hold.